news on 92.3 Nigeria Info.
On the news this morning, Commissioner for Works says waste disposal, not construction, causes flash floods witnessed in parts of Port Harcourt. Environmentalist calls for further action from Nigeria Ajib Oil Company after gas leak at Federal College of Education, Omoku. Aggrieved retired police officers protest at National Assembly in Abuja. Senate receives request from President Buhari to amend Petroleum Industry Act. Supreme Court picks November 1 for hearing of dispute between Rivers and Imo states over ownership of 17 oil wells. On the foreign scene, Taliban asked to speak at UN General Assembly in New York. I am Ifeemi Andrew. Rivers State Commissioner for Works, Elokatase Amadi, has attributed the flash floods in some parts of Port Harcourt metropolis to the indiscriminate dumping of refuse in drainages and flood canals. Mr. Tasi Amadi told correspondent Martha Okere that some residents are also reclaiming lands with canals and building on them. He said even though government is spending a lot to evacuate waste in drainages, residents are not being responsible about where they dispose their waste.
The government spends so much money trying to take out waste from the drains, and every day people put them back in. And what do we expect? It's just a natural consequence of our conduct. If we do not rearrange ourselves, we'll keep having the same problem. We have a lot of buildings that are actually built across the flood channels. People are reclaiming properties, narrowing some channels. There's a property somewhere in Old GRA that had to be demolished. They were filling the creek. And with population is growing, rains are more, global warming and all that. But things that were wide before, they narrowed them down. And we expect things to be different. I mean, it's not possible.
Mr. Tasi Amadi said the ongoing construction in some parts of Port Harcourt is not responsible for the flood.
The flooding you may have experienced is a bit more widespread than the areas that are doing construction. They are doing construction in some areas, not everywhere. But you find flooding in so many areas where there's no construction even longer. The areas I talked about were clean. There's no construction going on there, but the drains are completely blocked. Psychiatric Road is flooded. Julius Berger is not working there. Audley Road has a flood. Julius Berger is not working there. Robertson Road is flooded. Julius Berger is not working there. I mean, there are several areas where there is no activity, and we still have the same flood problems.
The State Commissioner for Works also recommended that buildings on canals be demolished.
Buildings that obstruct the free flow of water ought to be demolished. That is my recommendation. It's left for the Executive Council to deliberate on what I recommend and see if that's the only option or there are other options or if that's the best option. And when instructions are given, we'll carry them out.
As you may know, some areas of Port Harcourt have continued to witness flash floods that submerged roads, vehicles and houses, leaving residents, commuters and businesses stranded. On Tuesday, the floods affected areas like Peter Odili, Azikiwe Road, D-Line, GRA, Rumu-Kalagbo and Rumukuta roads. Even the ground floor of the Port Harcourt Mall besides the government house was flooded. The manager of the mall, Chioma Okoye, told our correspondent that the flooding worsened after Julius Berger worked on the road in front of the mall. She called on the company to return and do a proper job on the drainages.
It's a terrible situation for us, and this is the problem we have been writing to the Ministry of Environment about, complaining, series of meetings that have been held regarding the government drainage. They are not flowing. So now that even our pumping machine here installed in the mall, we have been pumping and the water there's no way for the water to go. And I don't know what kind of work Julius Berger did here. Since after Julius Berger work, it has become even worse. The gutters are not proper. The huge damage here at the mall is terrible.
Many school children could not make it to school. The community secondary school in Apara on the East-West Road was also flooded some years ago. Flood waters displaced the school. The head of Department of Survey and Geoinformatics at the Captain Elechi Amadi Polytechnic, Emmanuel Ajie, has called on the River State government to embark on deliberate canalization of canals and dredging of rivers to address the persistent flooding in parts of the state. Dr. Ajie, in an interview with our correspondent, said that the canals are blocked and the drainages cannot hold a large volume of water.
The River State government must look into canalization linking the land water to the river. And that's the way we can solve this flooding. Not only about drainage, because drainage can only take water, cannot take much volume of water. But canals can take much volume of water. So they should look into canalization. The only canal we have here, even the one in Ajib, and very close to Ajib, they block it with roads. They are constructing roads here. And also in the rural area, especially in Ahoda West local government area and those Orashi areas and all, the river should be dredged. Because even the river is shallow now. So there is need for dredging of the river, and so that the river will be deep. enough to contain more water, to take the water inside the Atlantic Ocean.
He also called on the state government to have a proper development plan for the state. He said most areas in Port Harcourt and its environs are without a plan, which makes it difficult for the free flow of water whenever it rains.
So there's need for government to go ahead of the people in planning cities, not the people when they finish building, government wants to go and construct roads, start scattering houses, they're looking for how to maneuver and get drainage done. It's not always easy that way. In developed countries, the government go ahead of the people before the people start coming. In our area here, people go ahead of government before government start coming. They also construct roads by themselves and they do everything, both the doing by themselves before the government start coming and start investing interest in those areas. And so that is also a problem because we don't have design and plan cities and plan towns and plan settlements here. Look at the Greater Port Harcourt City now. Now the development of Greater Port Harcourt City is there and implementation now. People are already going to build in Greater Port Harcourt City. So by the time they will go there, they will alter the design.
Chairman of the Nigerian Environmental Society in Rivers State, Kingsley Unwogbidi, says the Nigerian Ajib Oil Company has not taken any other steps since it contained a gas leakage from one of its pipelines at the Federal College of Education, Omoko, earlier this month. Dr. Unwogbidi told correspondent Choma Ezemafo that the gas leak affected the air quality of the school for days before it was stopped by the company.
It impacted the area seriously because the air quality was compromised. They have not said anything to the school. They've not tried to contact the school and which way forward to see whether there's anything they can do to ameliorate the suffering and discomfort that the people went through. Nigerian Ajib Oil Company has not taken any step. As to whether they're trying to see whether it's sabotage or equipment failure, that we don't know. But as we speak, from that last Friday, from that last Thursday till now, they've not been able to make any contact with the school.
Dr. Unwogbidi, however, urged the company to look into the situation of the school in Omoko, Ogba, Egbema, and Doni local government area.
Well, as an environmental professional or practitioner, I expect the school to take some steps because most students and staff suffered. And also I expect AGIP to take responsibility in certain areas, whatever it is, to see how they can, so that both parties can strike a meeting ground. But as it is, I don't know what they're up to. I don't know what Nigerian Ajib Oil Company are up to.
On his part, a high chief in Ogba, Egbema, and Doni local government area, Bright Abali, complained about the impact of the activities of Nigerian Ajib Oil Company on the people of the area.
While they are doing remediation works on the site, it is not enough because pipes that have been laid over 50 years are still in use. These pipes are obsolete, they are corroded, they are gushing out crude materials that are poisonous. And poisonous to the people, not just to the local or indigenous people here. So their gas have now shown itself from this recent eruption as a gas that is poisonous to Nigerians, not just to our people.
The company and the National Environmental Standards and Regulation Enforcement Agency, NESRA, are expected to speak on this. Moving on, the prophetess Edna Lovely Wolelu, who was sentenced to life imprisonment for preparing a poisonous substance for a member, has died. She was sentenced last week, Thursday, by High Court in Rivers State. Spokesman of the Port Harcourt Correctional Center, Juliet Ofoni, confirmed this to correspondent Soebi Oruwari.
The inmate, Edna Wolelu, that was sentenced to life imprisonment, came with a protracted illness. Her illness did not just start on the day she was admitted into the correctional facility. And as she came, we discovered she had some illness, so we took her to the hospital as she complained of pain. So when we got there, the doctor said she had protracted illness, which also has to do with perforated septic ulcer, blood pressure is down and all that. She was on admission, but unfortunately she didn't make it.
The International Federation of Women Lawyers, FIDA, in Rivers State is worried about the increasing cases of incest in the state. The acting chairman of FIDA in the state, Nena Igbokwe, told Nigeria Info that the organization discovered this during their sensitization program about the VAP law.
because we just noticed that incest is now on the rise, and a lot of children are being molested in their homes without being able to speak up. We say it's underreported. Even the wives in the house, they also try to cover it because for them it's something that nobody should hear about. But the young children are dying, they're complaining, they don't even have anybody to talk to. If they cannot talk to their mom, who would they talk to? In the last 2 months, we've rescued more than 5 children from incest, ranging from fathers, stepfathers, brothers. Yes, we have rescued more than 5 children.
Mrs. Igbokwe said at least 3 of the incest cases are before a court of competent jurisdiction.
The cases we have had so far is within Port Harcourt. Out of those, we've been able to get 3 arrested and charged to court. Then in the rural areas, what we normally do now is that we are going around to sensitize the public on this issue and let them know that the fact that somebody is your child doesn't give you the right to sleep with that person or have sex with the person. A man even said that he wanted to know whether the daughter was a virgin, and that the only way he can do it is by sleeping with the girl. The young children are being doctored that the fact that their father has a right over them, for them is a normal thing. This is their father, they cannot say no. So their father has a way of getting them to sleep with him.
The acting FIDE chairman also spoke on the punishment prescribed for incest in the VAP law.
Depending on the age, either rape or defilement. But the worst part of it is that in the law talks about 10 years and above. The punishment for incest is 10 years and above. It doesn't come with the kind of punishment that comes with rape. Rape is life imprisonment. But in the case of incest, they're talking about 10 years and above. That means the judge has a discretion to give from 10 years and above. Then when there is consent, the VAP law is talking about consent in incest. When there is consent, they are looking at 5 years and above for punishment on whoever that commits incest.
She said the accused, especially fathers, are used threats to silent cases of incest in the families.
A father threatens a child that if you talk, you will not go to school. So the child keeps quiet and sees it as a normal thing. It's only when somebody comes into the family and says something, the child suddenly realizes that this is wrong. Because even the mother is not helping matters. So incest is a crime. It's something we must stop. Everybody should be aware of this and speak against it. Fight against it with all our strength. The children are bottling up inside. They cannot speak. If you go into the homes and ask questions, you see that a lot of children are being sexually abused by members of the family.
Mr. Sindene Igbokwe called on security agencies to be thorough in their investigation of cases of incest.
There's always a problem. Most times, these issues of incest or sexual abuse, they tend to treat it as a family matter. I think the first and foremost thing a police officer should do is to first of all shame the man. Listen to the victim first. When you finish your victim, make sure that the man is charged to court than settling this matter. Because we have realized that when you settle cases, it will not deter the next offender. They should take it just like every other person that has been reported for an offense. Don't say because it's a father who will train the children, because it's a brother, how would they cope in the family, then you close your mouth. The last one we had is that the girl even got pregnant for the father.
Moving on, some retired police officers staged a protest in front of the National Assembly Abuja over the contributory pension scheme. The retired officers have demanded improved retirement benefits. Part of their request is that the Nigerian police force be withdrawn from the contributory pension scheme, just as their counterparts in the army and other sister security agencies. They said after 35 years of dedicated service to the nation, the monthly take-home pay of a retired officer under the said scheme is very poor.
What they're paying us is something less than 25%, about 1/4 of what we're earning when we're serving. A lot of ugly things are taking place. Our people are developing certain sicknesses that is caused by heart attack, frustration, and so on. We have come to tell our children in the National Assembly, most of them will labor to ensure that they come down here to make policies that will favor us. And we are happy that the existing law of this country under the Constitution gives them enormous powers to receive our petition like this same panel as they have been doing. Listen to us. They have done that, but somewhere along the line we discovered that past and current IGs will frustrate our effort. You will imagine that a retired police inspector is paid 26,000 naira a month. Is paid 29, okay.
Still ahead, INEC says fresh registration hit over 3 million voters as first quarter of continuous voter registration comes to an end. Stay tuned. The newly appointed coordinator of the Miners Association of Nigeria, HA unit, Fabian Chibike Onwuli, has announced the dissolution of all standing committees set up by the Immediate Past Administrative Committee led by Ras Njoko in HA local government area. This is in following the dissolution of the HA Unit Administrative Committee of the Association and subsequent appointment of a six-man administrative caretaker committee by the Rivers State chapter of Miners Association of Nigeria to be led by Fabian Chibike Onwuli for a period of 6 months. The HA Unit Coordinator Fabian Chubike Onwuli in a statement noted that there will be a general meeting of all members on Thursday this week at Mercy Lodge in Chokocho by 10 a.m. The statement added that a representative of HA Local Government Council will be present at the meeting to discuss on the relationship between the local government and the association. INEC says fresh registration hit over 3 million voters as the first quarter of INEC's continuous voter registration came to an end on Tuesday. INEC National Commissioner and Chairman Information and Voter Education Committee Festus Okoye, who made this known, said over 1 million Nigerians applied for voter transfer, replacement of permanent voters cards PVCs, and update of their voter information records. He said youths between 18 and 34 still constitute the majority of completed registration, with students forming the largest category. On gender distribution, he said 51.38% are male voters, while 48.62% are female. He said the second quarter of the CVR exercise will start October 4 and end December 20. President Muhammadu Buhari has appointed new members to the board of the EFCC in a letter read by Senate President Ahmed Lawan on Tuesday. The president appointed George Abang as secretary of the board. Other appointees include Lukman Mohammed, Kola Adeshina, and Mohammed Yahaya. The Supreme Court has scheduled hearings for November 1 in the dispute between Rivers and Imo states over the ownership of 17 oil wells, otherwise referred to as the Akri and Ingbede oil wells. A 7-member panel led by Justice Kudirat Kereke Ekon chose the date on Tuesday after hearing preliminary applications intended by parties to regularize some of the processes already filed. In the suit filed by River State through its Attorney General, the plaintiff is contesting Imo State's claim to about 37 Akri and Ingbede communities in its territory, housing about 17 oil wells. The Senate has also received a request from President Muhammadu Buhari to amend the Petroleum Industry Act 2021. In the request, in a letter to the Senate on Tuesday, President Buhari was silent on the agitation over the 3% allocation to oil-bearing communities. The request centered basically on the need to review the administrative structure of the Upstream Regulatory Commission and the Nigerian Midstream and Downstream Petroleum Regulatory Authority. Ahmed Lawan read the letter during plenary. In the meantime, Senate is considering the legislation for a life jail sentence on those found guilty of kidnapping in Nigeria. A bill sponsored by Senator Abikunle Amosun, APC, Ogun Central, scheduled second reading at plenary, presided over by Senate President Ahmed Lawan on Tuesday. The bill seeks to, among other things, introduce stiffer punishments and punitive measures to combat and prevent kidnapping or any form of abduction, wrongful restraint, and confinement in Nigeria. On the foreign scene, the Taliban have asked to address world leaders at the United Nations General Assembly this week in New York City. The group's foreign minister made the request in a letter on Monday. The Taliban also nominated a Doha-based spokesperson, Suhail Shaheen, as Afghanistan's UN ambassador. The group, which seized control of Afghanistan last month, said the envoy for the ousted government no longer represented the country. A UN spokesperson says the request has been considered by a credentials committee whose 9 members include the US, China, and Russia. A UN committee will rule on the request. On the news this morning, you heard that the River State Commissioner for Works has said that waste disposal and not construction work has caused flash floods witnessed in parts of Port Harcourt. An environmentalist is calling for further action from Nigerian Ajib Oil Company after gas leak at Federal College of Education, Omok, earlier this month. The Supreme Court has picked November 1 for hearing of dispute between Rivers and Imo States over ownership of 17 oil wells. FIDA in Rivers State is worried about increasing cases of incest in the state. Aggrieved retired police officers protested at National Assembly in Abuja demanding better pay. INEC says fresh registration has hit over 3 million voters as the first quarter of the continuous voter registration comes to an end. On the foreign scene, we told you that the Taliban is asking to speak at UN General Assembly in New York. The news was edited by Enoho Ogbaviri. Contact our newsroom on 0819000017. For more stories, visit www.nigeriainfo.fm. Cloudy weather is expected in Port Harcourt this morning. My name is Ifeanyi Andrew. Thank you for your time, and bye-bye for now.